At the age of 12, my life took a dramatic turn when my family relocated from Kenya to Canada. This transition introduced me to a vibrant new world filled with exciting opportunities, diverse cultures, and welcoming people. My father's success as a businessman ensured we had a comfortable lifestyle, which made settling into this new environment smoother. During high school, I met Russell, the person who would later become my husband. Our relationship had its ups and downs over the years, but by the time I was 22, we decided to fully commit and get married. I was ecstatic, envisioning a future brimming with love and joy. However, one significant obstacle stood in our way. Russell's mother, Doris. She was openly against our marriage plans. I couldn't shake off the feeling that her objections were rooted, at least partially, in my Kenyan heritage. Doris often made subtle, unsettling remarks that made me feel unwelcome. Unlike his mother, Russell was unfazed by these tensions. He cherished our relationship, valuing me for who I was rather than my background. Despite his mother's disapproval, he remained supportive, affirming his commitment to our union. Our wedding day was emotionally complex. While I was thrilled to be marrying Russell, the shadow of Doris's disapproval loomed in the background. Determined, I focused on the love Russell and I shared, trying to ignore any negativity. In the days that followed, Doris's disdain became more pronounced. She often made disparaging comments about my culture and heritage, which was painful. Although I wished for a harmonious relationship with my mother-in-law, it seemed increasingly unlikely. Russell tried to bridge the gap between us, torn between his love for both his mother and me. He promised to address the issues with Doris, but the atmosphere remained strained. Her continual subtle jabs and intrusive questions about my background were disheartening and began to affect my mental and emotional health. Despite these difficulties, Russell and I were committed to building our life together. We moved into our place and focused on our careers and plans. However, Doris's persistent disapproval and subtle hostility continued to cast a shadow over our happiness, leading to a point where her remarks became unbearable. I reached a breaking point. I had always striven to remain calm and composed, treating everyone with kindness, but Doris's continuous hurtful remarks finally pushed me too far. In a moment of frustration, I did something I had never done before. I raised my voice at her. I needed to make it clear that I was exhausted from her constant subtle digs and the unwelcoming way she treated me. Doris, I've truly had enough of your incessant comments. They're growing tiresome. Oh, I'm merely expressing my opinions. There's no need for you to be so defensive. Expressing opinions? It feels like you're relentlessly targeting me because of my background. I deserve as much respect as anyone else. I don't intend to offend, but you seem overly sensitive about everything. This isn't about sensitivity, it's about respect. I am your daughter-in-law, and I should be treated with kindness and understanding. Perhaps if you tried to fit in a bit more, I wouldn't need to make these remarks. Fit in? I've been part of this community for years. This is also my home, and I shouldn't have to alter who I am just to appease you. And just so you know, I never sought your permission to marry your son, nor did I wish for it. I know you had different plans for him. That's unfair. We love each other, and that's what should matter to you. If only you were from a more traditional background, perhaps I'd be more accepting. I don't need your acceptance. I'm proud of my heritage, and I refuse to let you belittle me for it. Your prejudice is your issue to deal with. Well, maybe things would be simpler if you had married someone from your own culture. That's not the point. We are married, and you need to come to terms with that. Your ongoing disapproval is causing us pain, and I won't allow you to dampen our happiness. I never expected you to speak to me like this. Why are you being so aggressive? Perhaps you never anticipated that I would stand up for myself. I'm finished trying to please you. If that's how you feel, perhaps it's best if we keep our distance." "That suits me fine. I deserve to be surrounded by people who respect and appreciate me for who I am." "You're being unreasonable." "No, I'm simply tired of being mistreated. I am part of your family now, whether you like it or not." And it was time for her to start treating me accordingly. If she couldn't manage that, then perhaps it was best for us to maintain some distance. "Suit yourself," she replied. "I will, thank you. And I hope you take some time to reflect on how your actions are affecting your relationship with your son," I responded. I decided it was time to leave. "Maybe when you're ready to treat me with the respect I deserve, we can have another conversation. Until then, take care." With that, I left the room, feeling a tumultuous mix of anger and sadness. Confronting Doris was difficult, but standing up for myself was necessary. From that moment, I knew my relationship with her might be irreparably damaged, but I felt confident in my decision. I deserved respect and wouldn't tolerate any more subtle jabs or hurtful comments. My focus had to be on my marriage and building a joyful life with Russell, regardless of Doris's disapproval. When I shared the details of our confrontation with Russell, he surprised me by fully supporting me. He even went as far as to tell his mother that she needed to treat me with respect. However, the situation escalated dramatically when Doris threatened to disown him as well. This was a shock to both of us, and I could see the pain it caused Russell. His mother's willingness to disown her son because he defended his wife was heartbreaking. Yet this difficult situation helped us realize something crucial. We didn't need toxic people in our lives, even if they were family. We deserved love and respect, and if someone couldn't provide that, they didn't deserve a place in our lives. As tough as it was to see Doris behave this way, it served as a wake-up call for Russell. He began to understand that his mother's negativity and disapproval were only holding him back from true happiness. It was time for him to move beyond the toxicity and build a life with me based on love and mutual understanding. Months passed since Doris cut ties with us, and although Russell was deeply affected by his mother's decision, he still missed her despite everything she had said and done. Wanting to support him in finding closure and perhaps paving the way for reconciliation, I planned a dinner date at Russell's favorite restaurant, hoping it would offer him some comfort and maybe even a new beginning. When we arrived at the restaurant and I gave my name, the maitre d' at the front desk looked puzzled and informed me that my name was on the blacklist. This took me by surprise, as Russell and I had always been regular patrons there. Confused and hoping to clear up the misunderstanding, I requested to speak with the manager. To our astonishment, the manager emerged, revealing herself to be none other than Doris. During the months we hadn't seen her, she had been busy expanding her portfolio, which now included managing this very restaurant, Applebee's, our favorite spot. It seemed too calculated to be a mere coincidence. Seeing her there, I felt a surge of shock and disbelief at her pettiness. Well, what do we have here? I never thought I'd see the day when you two would show up at my restaurant, Doris greeted us, not missing a beat in informing us that we were not welcome. Unable to hold back his frustration, Russell began to raise his voice, creating a scene in the restaurant. I found myself torn between backing Russell and trying to prevent the situation from escalating further. Doris, we didn't come here to cause trouble. We just wanted to enjoy a peaceful dinner. I tried to reason with her. A peaceful dinner? With the likes of you? I don't think so. It's quite amusing to see you both here, practically begging to be let in after everything that's happened, she retorted smugly. What are you talking about, Mom? We've always loved this place and now you're saying we're not welcome? Russell was incredulous. It's quite simple. When you choose to marry the person against my wishes, I had to make a decision. I couldn't allow my son to make such a dreadful mistake. So, I decided to safeguard my business from your poor choices, Doris explained coldly. You're sick, Mom. It's disgusting that you're doing this on purpose just to spite us, Russell accused, his voice filled with dismay. Oh, please, Russell. I'm just looking out for my reputation. I can't have people like you associating with my business, Doris dismissed. This is ridiculous, Mom. You're choosing your bigotry over your son. I thought you were better than this, Russell lamented, the hurt clear in his voice. You're the one who chose this path, Russell. Don't blame me for the decisions you've made, Doris retorted sharply. As she spoke, the eyes of everyone in the restaurant were fixed on us, casting an uncomfortable spotlight. It felt deeply embarrassing to be escorted out of Applebee's, a place we once enjoyed freely. Let's just leave, Russell. Arguing won't change her mind, I suggested quietly, eager to escape the escalating tension. You're right, Janice. It's not worth it, Russell replied, disappointment etched on his face. And don't come back. No one wants you here, Doris called out after us, her voice filled with disdain. With that, we stepped out of the restaurant and started to wander aimlessly down the street. Russell was deeply upset, so I encouraged him to open up about his feelings, especially his connection to Applebee's. Let it all out, Russell. How are you really feeling? I know Applebee's was more than just a restaurant to you. Applebee's. It was a place where my dad and I bonded. We'd sit by the window, order our favorite meals, and just talk for hours about everything. It's where we connected, he explained, his voice heavy with loss. It sounds like such a meaningful place for you, and I can't believe Doris would use it to hurt you like this, especially knowing how much those moments with your dad meant to you. It's just so unfair. She knows how special Applebee's is to me, and yet she chose to use it against us just because she doesn't approve of our marriage. You deserve so much better than this, Russell. I wish I could fix it. It's awful to see someone trying to dismantle what we have. I always thought family was meant to support each other, not pull one another apart. It's tough to make sense of why she'd act this way, but sometimes people let their biases get the best of them. We might not be able to change that, but we can choose our response, I reassured him. You're right, I'm done letting her negativity affect us. What matters is that we have each other. Exactly. We'll face this together. And actually, I have some news that might brighten your day a bit. What's that? He asked, curious despite the somber mood. Well, it turns out my dad recently acquired the entire block of buildings on this street, including Applebee's. Really? Why didn't you mention this before? It just happened. He finalized the deal with the investors recently. I was still grappling with the uncertainty of how everything would unfold. I had planned to share the news about my dad owning the complex during a celebratory dinner at the restaurant. That's incredible, Janice. I need to congratulate him later, Russell said, genuinely impressed. We can do that later, but right now there's something else we need to address about your mom, I replied, hinting at a more immediate concern. You see, my dad's quite formidable when it comes to business matters. He won't take kindly to how Doris treated us. He's going to handle this situation. Feeling a mix of urgency and necessity, I decided to call my dad right then and put him on speakerphone so Russell could listen in. I explained everything that had transpired at Applebee's. My dad was upset by the news. I knew Doris wasn't fond of you, but to kick you out of a restaurant, that's a new low. I'm sorry I hadn't reviewed the documents sooner. I only recently received the title deeds for this property and I haven't had the chance to evaluate all the managers yet. But rest assured, I'll take care of this immediately. He reassured us, don't worry at all. Give me 20 minutes and I'll be there to sort this out personally. Hearing my dad's determined words brought me a sense of relief but also a bit of concern. I knew he was capable of handling the situation, but I hoped it wouldn't escalate into something messier. My dad is not someone to be trifled with, especially in business. He is also a firm believer in treating customers with fairness and compassion. So, Russell and I waited nervously near the restaurant, trusting that my dad would resolve the issue appropriately. We weren't sure exactly what he planned to do, but we believed in his judgment. Moments later, my dad arrived and we followed him back into Applebee's. He walked with a confident stride that suggested he was ready to take on whatever needed to be done. As he entered, he called out for Doris, loud enough for everyone inside to hear. The tension in the restaurant was palpable as heads turned to watch the unfolding scene. Doris stepped forward, visibly annoyed by the interruption. Doris probably thought she could dismiss my father as easily as she had dismissed us. But my dad is not one to be brushed aside lightly. He raised an eyebrow at her and began with a tone of faux concern. "Doris, my dear, it seems you haven't been keeping up with the latest developments. Did they forget to inform you about the new owner of the 2nd Green Avenue complex?" Doris appeared visibly shaken, clearly caught off guard by the turn of events. "What are you talking about? Who is it?" she stammered, confusion laced in her voice. My dad couldn't suppress a small, knowing smile. "Well, that would be me. I'm the new owner, and I must say I've been here for less than a week, and I'm already encountering troubling complaints about your management." Doris's complexion turned a shade paler as the reality of her predicament dawned on her. "I didn't know that," she muttered, flustered. "Well, perhaps if you had checked your emails or paid closer attention to what's happening around you, you might have known. But it's too late for apologies now," my dad responded with a chuckle. It was satisfying to see Doris on the receiving end of the type of treatment she had meted out to us. Russell, who had been quietly seething by my side, stepped forward and said with resolve, "You had no right to treat us, or anyone, the way you did, especially Janice. Oh, we've always known you to harbor ill will, but as someone in charge of a public establishment, you should have been the first to understand that discrimination based on personal prejudices is unacceptable. You've clearly violated that principle, and I don't think you're fit to manage this place." Doris, now desperate, pleaded, "Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Even if you didn't know he was the owner, you should have treated all customers fairly without letting your personal biases interfere," I added firmly. "Please, let's discuss this privately." Doris tried to salvage the situation. "There's no need," my dad interjected, his voice loud enough for the bystanders to hear. "I believe everyone here would be interested to know that the person managing Applebee's, who allowed her racism to affect her professional duties, is no longer part of the staff." The murmurs in the restaurant grew louder, fueled by the unfolding drama. Doris, utterly embarrassed, could only stand in silence as she faced the consequences of her actions, while Russell and I watched, relieved that justice was being served. Russell and I couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and triumph, finally receiving justice after enduring Doris's harsh treatment for so long. My dad decisively handled the situation, warning her that he would call security to escort her out if she didn't leave voluntarily. Embarrassed and on the brink of tears, Doris started her walk of shame out of the restaurant. As she made her exit, the mood in the restaurant instantly lifted. People began to clap and cheer, celebrating her departure, and I felt a profound sense of relief wash over me. Russell and I immediately went over to my dad and gave him a big hug, thanking him for his decisive intervention. "You're the best, Dad," I said with a smile, and he chuckled, giving us both a reassuring pat on the back. "It was my pleasure, my dear. I couldn't stand by and watch you two suffer because of her," he replied with a warm smile. Dad then excused himself to check on the kitchen staff and find the next in command to appoint as the acting manager amidst the recent upheaval. He returned shortly after, explaining that he had some important business matters to finalize, including formally terminating Doris and organizing the paperwork to officially name the new acting manager. "Okay, my work here is done for now. You two enjoy your meal on the house." he said, signaling for us to take a seat and relax. As we settled down at a table, a whirlwind of emotions enveloped me. I was still processing the swift turn of events, amazed at how quickly everything had escalated. Yet, above all, I felt incredibly grateful for my dad's support and the strength he provided us through this challenging time. It was comforting to know that no matter what, we had someone on our side, ready to step in when needed.